just you and I.
How's it going, guys? Public Safety Network here. Today I'm going to kind of talk about a topic that I feel kind of gets overlooked a lot when it comes to the security industry, and I think it'd be uniforms and appearance. How we present ourselves through the way our uniform looks and the way that our physical appearance is, I think has a very lasting impact on how the public perceives us. If you see a guard that is well organized, his uniform's clean pressed, he's well kempt, he appears like he's showered, everything on him looks organized and squared away. Well, if you're just a normal everyday citizen, you're like, I would feel safe, I would feel protected, I feel like this guard knows what he's doing. And on the opposite side, if I was someone who had bad intentions, I would possibly think twice about what I was doing, because obviously this guard knows what he's doing. He's probably going to be able to handle the situation that effectively I'm going to throw at him. Now, if you flip that on the other side and you see a guard who is unkempt, he's wearing dirty uniform, wrinkled uniform, probably looks like he hasn't showered in 3 days. As first of all, as the public, you're not going to have any respect, not only for that guard, but also probably for that company as well, because they're like, well, you're allowing your guard to go out in public like this. And then obviously as a criminal, you're going to be like, well, this guard can barely handle dressing himself. Like, I'm not worried about him stopping whatever I plan on doing. And I think as security, we tend to focus more on things like getting advanced training and all of these kind of, while they're big picture things, we tend to not focus on the little things, I think, that can garner us more respect as an industry as a whole, and uniforms and appearance is one of those. When you first meet someone, you tend to a lot of times judge them based on their appearance. Are they well kept? Do they smell nice? Do they look clean? Do they look squared away? All of these things kind of mold your perception of someone before you've even had a conversation with them. And being a security guard is no different. We're in uniform, we're in the public eye. People see us because we obviously are in uniform, we dress different than everybody else. And so people will form perceptions about you, whether they're true or not, based on the way that you carry yourself and the way your uniform and the way your appearance is. And I think as an industry, we've kind of become complicit in allowing these types of behaviors to go on. And I think that has kind of dragged down the industry as a whole, because when we allow guards to, or we make it acceptable for guards to behave like this, then effectively that becomes the face of the industry. That's what people think of when they think of a security guard. They think of the guy, no belt, untucked shirt, dirty pants, wrinkled shirt, all of these things. That's what they associate with security. And I think as we want to progress the industry and make it more professional, we're going to have to kind of address these issues. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about things that we can do as individuals that may kind of help us along the way. Now, when it comes to dress and appearance, as an individual, you're asking yourself, well, what can I do to make sure that I am putting myself out the best image that I possibly can? And so we're going to kind of go over a few things that you can do that, honestly, they're minor things too, that can effectively make you appear to be more professional. Things obviously like tucking in your shirts. And this has been addressed by other YouTubers that are in similar fields that talk about this subject, is tucking in a shirt and wearing a belt makes all the difference. Now, I understand when you get off duty that you're tired of wearing the uniform and you want to take it off, maybe sweaty or whatever. But when you leave work, whether you're working or not, whether you're clocked in or you're not, people are going to still see that uniform. And if you are walking around, the grocery store or the gas station or whatever with an untucked shirt and, no belt on, just like you just don't care, then people are going to see not only you, but they're going to see the company you work for, and they're going to think, well, this company obviously isn't teaching their guards to be very professional, and apparently they're allowing stuff like this. So you got to remember, guys, if you're ever out in public in uniform, whether you're working or not, you are a representation of that company and a representation of the industry as a whole. So making sure that when you're in uniform, whether working or not, You need to make sure your shirt is tucked in, and you make sure you have a belt, guys. Don't walk around with no belt on, because that just looks incredibly sloppy. You have a shirt tucked in, but you have no belt. That's just not acceptable. Other things you can do is making sure that everyone that you work with, that it's uniform, guys. That companies have uniform policies, and a lot of times this may be on the company where they don't enforce it as strictly as they should. I've worked for a few companies and run into a few that, while they have a lot of other things squared away, like training and hiring and all this stuff, they fail to enforce uniform policy, which kind of undermines anything else that they're doing. You need to make sure that all your guys are dressed, at least for the most part, uniform-wise should be identical. Gear-wise, it's a little different. Everyone kind of has preferences, but when it comes to uniform, everyone should be wearing the same kind of shirt. Everyone should be wearing the same colored pants. Everyone should be wearing the same colored boots. That's the point of a uniform, is so that everyone looks like a team. They look conformed together, and that they can work together as a unit. That was the whole point of uniforms. And so making sure that everyone that you work with kind of has that uniformity is going to make your presence much stronger than if everyone dresses like individuals. Another small thing you can do, guys, is just making sure that if you wear a duty belt and that you wear duty gear, that is at least the same material and that everyone is using the same material. It looks incredibly sloppy if you have a nylon duty belt and a basket weave handcuff case and a leather baton holder and all of these different types of materials on one belt. It looks like you just kind of went to the bargain bin at your local uniform store and just started picking stuff out. And so you need to make sure that when you're wearing a duty belt and you're wearing all your tools and everything, that it needs to look the same. Doesn't mean you have to buy the same brand for everything, but the material itself needs to be the same, and everyone you work with also needs to have the same material. And this falls on again partially in the company to make sure that they adequately spell out what type of appearance that they're going for. So that is also important. And then lastly, guys, I'm going to kind of get into kind of how as an industry as a whole we can kind of change this on an individual and sometimes at a company level. Now, I've seen plenty of guards that come in and they only time they're ever in full uniform or they're in the appropriate uniform is when the supervisor is around. And while you may say to yourself, well, it's the supervisor's job to make sure that the person is in uniform, that the person is representing the company well. And I'm going to tell you that is not the correct answer. Just because you're not a supervisor doesn't mean that you can't hold the people you work with accountable for their actions. If you know for a fact that the guard in question only dresses in appropriate and full uniform when the supervisor is going to be around, and you allow that to happen, then you're just as complicit at lowering the standard of the industry and lowering the standard of your company as that person, because you're allowing it to happen. There's nothing stopping you, either as yourself or even as a team, if you work with multiple people, from pulling this person aside and saying, look, we all wear the same uniform because we're supposed to look like a team, a cohesive unit, and that we work well together. By the fact that you are blatantly just not wearing the uniform or deciding to dress differently than everyone else, you are effectively making us look sloppy, and it is making our ability to do our jobs less effective. And that's pretty much what you say to the person. Now, whether or not that person takes your advice or not is on them. And if they decide that they just want to, say, screw it, I don't care what you have to say, I'm going to do what I want to do, then at that point you probably need to bring it up to the next level of supervision, because they're going to need to take care of that, because obviously that's going to be an issue down the line with simple just job performance and job expectations. But as a whole, we need to start holding each other accountable for things that we see that are not acceptable, that are going to bring down the industry even further, and that are just going to make us look unprofessional. Guys, the more, no matter how much we try to change the industry on the big scale, like increasing training, increasing pay across the board, if we don't bother to do the little minor things like making sure that everyone's uniform and appearance looks professional, then everything else is a moot point. And effectively, everything else is just going to be a waste of time, because that your appearance is going to be initially what the public sees, and that's instantly going to mold their opinion of you and your company and the industry as a whole. So that's all about I have for today, guys. You know, I think it was a topic that has been brought up before, and I think it's really, really important to touch on, because as I see the kind of rise in people wanting to raise the standard of the industry, a lot of times these minor things tend to get left in the dust because we're so focused on the big picture that we don't realize a lot of these small details can undermine everything that we're working towards. So thanks for watching, guys. Said I thank you for so much for the support. You know, I've been trying to put out more content, finding out what viewers want more, and you know, in all honesty, let's make the comment section fun, guys. If you have a uniform horror story that either it was you, it could have been you, or it could have been someone that you know, or someone that you work with, you know, throw it down in the comment section. Now, don't give out specifics, don't give out any identifying information like that, but speak in generals and kind of tell us what happened and how it was dealt with. Did no one do anything about it? Did you do something about it? Did your supervisor do something about it? So like I said, kind of go ahead and throw that in the comment section. If you guys haven't already, subscribe, give this video a like, you know, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Like I said, and thanks guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a good night.